You are the best dad in the world. We are proud of you.
8 young women stood on the stage, side by side. Their clothes were simple but elegant. Their posture was confident. Their eyes shone with pride. Behind them, a large screen displayed their names and achievements. Doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs, educators, 8 sisters. The audience rose to their feet in applause. But one man in the front row did not stand. He remained seated, his hands folded tightly on his lap, his shoulders slightly bent, his head lowered. His name was Daniel Okori, and this moment, the moment the whole hall was celebrating, was the moment he never believed would come. The host lifted the microphone and spoke clearly. These 8 successful women share one story, one childhood, and one father, who raised them alone. A soft murmur moved through the crowd. Cameras turned, faces shifted, eyes searched. Then they found him. Daniel felt the weight of every stare land on his chest. He wanted to disappear. Because no one in this room knew the truth. No one knew how close he came to failing. No one knew how many nights he cried quietly so his daughters would not hear. And no one knew what really happened the morning their mother left. As the eldest daughter stepped forward to speak, Daniel's chest tightened. Because once she opened her mouth, there would be no hiding anymore. Many years earlier, Daniel's life did not always look like this. There was a time when his home was noisy in a happy way. Shoes scattered on the floor, laughter bouncing off the walls. A woman humming while cooking. Daniel and his wife were not rich, but they were hopeful. They talked about the future. They talked about education. They talked about raising strong daughters together. Then life became heavy. Money was tight. Bills piled up. Responsibilities grew faster than joy. One night turned into many. Nights of silence. Then one morning, without shouting, without drama, Daniel woke up and noticed something strange. The house felt too quiet. He walked into the bedroom. The cupboard was open. One side was empty. His wife's clothes were gone. Her bag was gone. Daniel stood there, confused, his heart pounding. Then he saw the note on the table. Just a few words. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore." That was all. No explanation, no goodbye to the children, no promise to return. Just silence. Daniel sank into a chair. 8 daughters were still asleep in the next room. And in that moment, Daniel understood something frightening. Life had handed him a role he never asked for. He was now everything. One man, 8 daughters, no instructions. The questions came fast. How do you raise girls alone? How do you comfort them when they ask for their mother? How do you explain absence to children who still expect footsteps at the door? Daniel had no answers, only responsibility. That morning, the girls woke up one by one. "Where is Mummy?" Daniel swallowed hard. She had to go away," he said gently. "When will she come back?" Daniel paused. "I don't know." Some cried, some stayed quiet. The youngest only held his leg tightly. Daniel held them all and promised something he was not sure he could keep. "I will take care of you." The world did not wait. Life moved on, even if Daniel was not ready. School fees, food, rent, uniforms. Daniel worked harder than he ever had before. He took small jobs. He learned how to cook simple meals. He learned how to braid hair badly at first. He learned how to listen when words failed. At night after the girls slept, Daniel would sit alone. Sometimes he stared at the wall. Sometimes he whispered prayers. Not for wealth, not for comfort, just for enough strength to face tomorrow. Judgment came quickly. People talked. Some meant well, some did not. How will one man raise girls? They need a woman. This will not end well. Daniel heard everything, but at home he became calm. At home he became steady. At home he became hope. He told his daughters stories. He reminded them they mattered. He told them education was their key, even when his own hands were empty. The first real test, one evening, Daniel sat at the table holding a school notice. Fees had increased for all 8 daughters. The numbers blurred in front of his eyes. His heart raced. For the first time since his wife left, fear fully caught up with him. What if I can't do this? The thought scared him. Then the youngest daughter walked in quietly. She climbed onto his lap and looked up at him. "Daddy," she asked softly. Are we okay? Daniel forced a smile. Yes, he said. But inside he was not sure, because tomorrow morning he would have to make a choice that could change everything. And whatever decision he made, one of his daughters might suffer. Back to the present in the award hall, the eldest daughter raised the microphone. Her voice was steady. Our mother left when we were young, she said calmly, but our father stayed. The room went silent. Daniel closed his eyes, because now the story had begun, and once the truth started coming out, there was no stopping it. The hall stayed quiet after the eldest daughter's words. People leaned forward in their seats. Cameras stopped clicking. Even the host forgot to smile. Daniel's heart beat hard in his chest. He knew this moment would come one day. He just did not expect it to come like this, under bright lights with strangers listening. The eldest daughter took a slow breath. Our father never told us the full story, she said. He said our mother left because life became too hard. And that is true. But it is not the whole truth. Daniel lifted his head. His eyes met hers. She gave him a small nod, like she was asking for permission. Daniel swallowed and nodded back. If the truth was coming out, it was better it came out now. Back then. The night everything changed. Years ago, the night before Daniel's wife left, the house was unusually quiet. The children were asleep early. Daniel sat at the table, counting money for the third time. The amount did not change. It was still not enough. His wife stood by the window, arms folded, staring into the dark. You didn't eat, Daniel said softly. I'm not hungry, she replied. Daniel pushed the money aside. We will manage. I'll find more work. She laughed, but there was no joy in it. You always say that. Daniel looked up. What does that mean? She turned to face him. Her eyes were tired. It means I am tired of hoping. Silence filled the room. I didn't marry poverty, she continued. I didn't plan to struggle forever. Daniel felt something sink inside him. We are not forever here. This is just a phase. She shook her head. You say that because you still believe. I don't. Daniel stood up slowly. So what are you saying? She hesitated, then the words came out fast, like she had practiced them. I can't stay here anymore. Daniel froze. What about the girls? She looked away. They will be fine with you. With me? His voice cracked. Alone? You are strong, she said, stronger than me. Daniel shook his head. This is not strength. This is running away. Her face hardened. Call it whatever you want. That night, Daniel slept sitting on the chair. In the morning, she was gone. The days after she left, the house changed overnight. Daniel woke the girls for school. He packed their lunches. He tied shoes the wrong way. He forgot small things, but he never forgot them. Neighbors came with questions. Where is your wife? Daniel smiled weakly. She traveled. Some believed him, some didn't. At night, the girls asked, Daddy, did Mummy forget us? Daniel hugged them tight. No, he said, she just needed space. But as weeks turned into months, even Daniel stopped believing his own words. The unexpected return one afternoon, almost a year later, Daniel came home early. The house was quiet, too quiet. He stepped inside and stopped. A suitcase sat near the door. Daniel's heart jumped. Then he heard a familiar voice from the bedroom. I just came to see them, his wife said. Daniel walked in slowly. She looked different. Better dressed. Calmer. The girls rushed to her, hugging her legs. Mummy, they cried. Daniel stood at the doorway, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. She smiled at the girls. I missed you. Then she turned to Daniel. I can't stay, she said quickly. I just wanted to see them. Daniel felt a mix of anger and relief. You can't come and go. Like this, he said. They are not toys. She lowered her voice. Daniel, listen to me. I have a chance to start over. I don't want to drag them into confusion. So you will leave them again? She nodded slowly. It is better this way. Daniel clenched his fists. You don't get to decide that alone, he said. She picked up her bag. They are safe with you, she said one last time. You were always good at carrying weight. Then she walked out. That was the last time Daniel saw her. That night, Daniel sat on the floor after the girls slept. He cried, not loudly, quietly. He cried for the family he lost. He cried for the questions he could not answer. He cried because he was scared. Then he stood up, and he made a decision. If he was going to do this alone, he would do it fully. No bitterness, no blame, no half-love. He would become the parent his daughters needed even if it broke him. Life was not smooth. Some years were harder than others. There were times when Daniel sold personal things to pay fees. Times when he walked long distances to save transport money. Times when he ate last or not at all. But the girls grew. They learned. They watched their father closely. They saw how he kept his word, how he never complained, how he treated them with respect. Slowly, something changed. The girls began to help each other. They studied together. They supported one another. And without realizing it, Daniel had raised more than daughters. He had raised a team. The eldest daughter's voice pulled Daniel back to the present. Our father never told us the whole story because he did not want us to hate our mother, she said. Daniel's throat tightened. He carried everything alone, she continued, and because of that, we learned something powerful. The audience listened closely. That love is not who stays when things are easy, she said. It is who stays when things fall apart. Applause rose gently. Daniel wiped his eyes, then the daughter paused. There is something else, she said. Daniel stiffened. She turned slightly toward him. Daddy, she said softly, there is a letter you hid for years. A letter from her. The room went quiet again. Daniel's heart dropped. Because he knew that letter, he had hidden it in a metal box. He never planned for anyone to read it. How do you know about that? He asked quietly. The daughter held up an envelope. Because we found it last month, she said. Daniel's breath caught. The daughter looked at the audience. This letter explains why she left, she said, and why she never came back. Daniel stood up slowly, because if that letter was read aloud, everything he had protected for years was about to change. The letter, Daniel, I am writing this because I do not know how to say these words out loud. I am tired. Not just in my body, but in my heart. I feel like I am disappearing inside this house. I wake up and sleep with fear. I am scared of failing you. I am scared of failing the girls. When I look at them, I see their future. When I look at myself, I see only my weakness. You are strong in ways I am not. You keep going even when life pushes back. I have tried to be like you, but I cannot. If I stay, I will become bitter. If I stay, I will break in front of them. I don't want them to see that version of me. Please do not tell them I was cruel. Tell them I was afraid. Take care of them. Love them twice as much. Teach them to believe when life feels impossible. I hope one day they forgive. The daughter stopped reading. The hall did not clap. No one spoke. Some people wiped their eyes. Some stared at the floor. Daniel stood frozen. He had read that letter many times, but hearing it out loud, hearing it spoken in his daughter's voice, felt different. It felt like opening an old wound. The second daughter stepped forward. She was gentle but direct, the kind who always asked the hard questions. Daddy, she said softly, why didn't you show us this before? Daniel took a deep breath. Because, he said, choosing his words carefully, I didn't want you to grow up angry. The daughter frowned. Angry at who? At her, Daniel said. At yourselves. At life. He paused. I wanted you to grow up free. The youngest sister wiped her eyes. But we could have understood, she whispered. Daniel nodded. I know that now. Daniel turned to the audience. I never told them what it cost, he said quietly. Not because I was proud, but because I didn't want their childhood to be full of worry. He spoke slowly, simply. There were days when I didn't know where help would come from, he continued. Days when I stood in front of school offices asking for time. Days when I went home and smiled even though my heart was tired. There were nights I cried in the bathroom so they wouldn't hear, Daniel said, not because I felt weak, but because love is heavy when you carry it alone. Then the third daughter stepped forward. She was known for her sharp mind and strong will. Daddy, she said, do you remember the night we almost left school? Daniel nodded slowly. How could he forget? Years ago, Daniel sat at the small table, staring at another school notice, final warning. If fees were not paid by the end of the week, the girls would be sent home. He rubbed his face. His hands shook. That night the girls noticed his silence. The eldest asked gently, "Daddy, what's wrong?" Daniel hesitated. Then for the first time he told them the truth. "We might have to pause school for a while," he said carefully. The room went quiet. One daughter looked down, another clenched her fists. The youngest asked, "Did we do something wrong?" Daniel's heart broke. "No," he said quickly, "never." That night, something unexpected happened. The daughters gathered quietly in their room. They talked. They planned. They decided. The next morning, they approached Daniel together. "We will help," the eldest said. Daniel shook his head. "No, you are children." "We can still help," she insisted. They offered to tutor younger students after school, to help neighbors with small chores, to reduce their needs. Daniel resisted at first, but life did not wait. Slowly, carefully, they worked together. And somehow they survived that year. Back in the hall, the eldest daughter faced the audience again. "We did not grow up rich," she said, "but we grew up strong." She smiled at her sisters. "Our father did not teach us fear," she continued. "He taught us responsibility." Applause broke out soft at first, then louder. Daniel wiped his eyes again, but before the moment could settle, the host stepped forward. "There is something else the audience should know," the host said carefully. Daniel looked up. His stomach tightened, because he could tell this was not planned. The host continued, "Tonight's event is not only about celebrating success," she said. "It is also about closure." The lights dimmed slightly. A door at the side of the hall opened. Daniel's heart skipped. A woman walked in. She looked older, thinner, nervous. Her steps were slow, unsure. The daughters turned at the same time. Their faces changed. Because even after all these years, they knew her. The room buzzed. Whispers filled the air. Daniel felt like the floor had moved under his feet. He did not expect this. He did not plan this. The woman stopped a few steps away. She did not speak. She just stood there, eyes wet, hands shaking. The eldest daughter broke the silence. "Why are you here?" she asked, not angry, just honest. The woman swallowed hard. "I came to listen," she said, softly. "And to say something I should have said a long time ago." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at his daughters. He looked at the woman. This moment, this meeting was bigger than him. The youngest daughter stepped forward, holding her sister's hands. "What do you want to say?" she asked quietly. The woman took a deep breath, and with the whole hall watching, she spoke, not because people had moved closer, but because the past had stepped into the room. The woman stood under the soft lights, her hands clasped together. She did not look proud. She did not look strong. She looked like someone who had carried regret for too long. Daniel did not move. He stayed where he was, breathing slowly, reminding himself to stay calm for his daughters. The eldest daughter spoke again, her voice steady but careful. "You said you wanted to tell us why you left," she said. "We're listening." The woman nodded. Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't leave because I didn't love you," she began. "I left because I was afraid of becoming someone you would hate." The room stayed quiet. She continued, "When life became hard, I felt like I was sinking. Every day I looked at your father and saw strength, and every day I looked at myself and felt smaller." She paused, wiping her face. "I thought leaving would give you a better chance. I thought if one parent stayed strong, it was better than two people falling apart." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He had heard this before in the letter, but hearing it spoken now, in front of everyone, still hurt. The second daughter stepped forward. "Did you ever think of coming back?" she asked. The woman nodded slowly. "Many times." "Then why didn't you?" the daughter asked. The woman swallowed hard. "Because every year that passed, I felt more ashamed," she said. "I told myself I would return when I had something to offer. But the longer I stayed away, the harder it became." The youngest daughter squeezed her sister's hands. "So you watched from far away?" she asked quietly. "Yes," the woman replied. "I followed your progress. I heard about your schools, your results, your dreams." Her voice broke. "And every time I heard your names, I knew your father had done what I couldn't." Daniel's chest tightened. The audience listened closely, but no one interrupted. Daniel stood up. Slowly, carefully. He did not raise his voice. "I never told them to wait for you," he said calmly. "And I never told them to hate you." The woman looked at him surprised. "I told them life is complicated," Daniel continued, "and that sometimes people leave not because they don't care, but because they are lost." The woman began to cry openly now. "I carried the anger so they wouldn't have to," Daniel said, "but tonight is not about blame." He turned to his daughters. "This night is about truth," he said gently. The eldest daughter nodded. Then she asked the question everyone feared. "Why now?" she asked the woman. "Why come back tonight of all nights?" The woman hesitated. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "I didn't come to take anything," she said. "I came to return something." She held the envelope out toward Daniel. Daniel stared at it. "What is that?" he asked. "It's something I was given years ago," she said. "Something I didn't understand then." Daniel slowly took the envelope. His hands trembled slightly. Inside was a folded document. He opened it and froze. The eldest daughter leaned closer. "Daddy?" Daniel's voice came out low. This is a scholarship record." The woman nodded. "A long time ago," she said, "a community program selected your daughters for long-term educational support. I was contacted because my name was still on some records." Daniel looked up sharply. "What?" he asked. "I never used it," she said quickly. "I was afraid it would make things harder between us. I thought you would think I was trying to interfere." Daniel's head spun. For years he had struggled alone, never knowing help had been waiting quietly. The daughters exchanged looks. The third daughter spoke. "So, support existed all along?" The woman nodded. "Yes." Daniel felt something deep inside him shift, not anger, not relief, something else, understanding. Daniel took a deep breath. "I don't regret the struggle," he said slowly, "because it taught us who we are." The eldest daughter stepped closer to him. "You didn't fail us," she said firmly. "Even without knowing this, you gave us everything." The audience applauded, but Daniel raised his hand gently. "There is one more thing," he said. The room quieted again. Daniel turned to the woman. "Did you come back for forgiveness?" he asked, "or for peace?" The woman answered without hesitation. "For peace," she said. "I don't expect forgiveness." The daughters looked at one another. This was their moment, not Daniel's. The eldest daughter took a step forward. "We cannot pretend the past didn't hurt," she said honestly, "but we also can't pretend we didn't grow." She paused. "Tonight is not about reopening wounds," she continued. "It's about choosing what comes next." The youngest daughter nodded. "We don't know what the future looks like," she said, "but we know who stood with us." All eyes turned to Daniel. He felt tears rise again. Before the moment could settle, the host returned to the stage. "There is something else planned for tonight," she said with a gentle smile. Daniel stiffened. He was not sure he could take more surprises. The host continued. "These 8 women have asked for one final moment." The lights dimmed slightly. A video began to play on the screen behind them. Photos appeared. Daniel younger, tired, smiling. Daniel cooking, teaching, listening. Daniel at school meetings, at graduations, at late-night study sessions. The daughters' voices played over the images. "This is the man who stayed. This is the man who never left. This is the man who believed when belief was hard." Daniel covered his face. Then the eldest daughter spoke clearly. "Tonight," she said, "we are not just celebrating our success." She turned toward Daniel. "We are honoring our father." The audience stood. Applause filled the hall. Daniel shook his head slowly, overwhelmed, but just as the moment reached its peak, a staff member rushed toward the host and whispered something urgently. The host's smile faded. She looked toward the side of the hall. Daniel followed her gaze. A man in a dark suit stood near the exit, watching closely. Daniel did not recognize him, but the woman did. Her face drained of color. She whispered under her breath, "He's here." Daniel turned sharply. "Who?" Her voice shook. "The person who blocked the scholarship," she said. "The one who stopped the letters from reaching you." Daniel's heart dropped, because suddenly the past wasn't finished speaking. Daniel's eyes stayed on the man by the door. The man wasn't smiling, he wasn't angry either. He just stood there like someone who had come to watch a story end without caring who cried at the last page. The hall's applause had slowed into confused murmurs. The 8 daughters noticed immediately. They had learned from their father's face over the years. When Daniel's jaw tightened like that, it meant something serious was happening. The eldest daughter stepped closer to him. "Daddy, who is that?" Daniel did not answer yet, because Said, his wife who had left, was the one staring as if the ground had disappeared under her. Her lips trembled. "That man's name is Mr. Femi Ajala," she whispered. "He used to work with the Community Scholarship Board." Daniel's head spun. "The scholarship," Daniel started. "Yes," Said said quickly. "He's the one who made sure the letters never reached you." The hall was still quiet enough for people near them to hear. A few heads turned. The host, sensing danger, not physical danger, but emotional danger, walked down from the stage slowly. Her smile was gone. Her voice was careful. "Sir," she said gently to Daniel, "do you want to pause the program?" Daniel looked at his daughters. For years he had protected them from stress. But they were not little girls anymore. They were women successful, steady, and brave. Daniel inhaled slowly. "No," he said. "Let it continue. Truth should not be paused." The eldest daughter lifted her chin and faced the host. "Let him speak," she said. The host nodded and gave the microphone to Daniel. Daniel held it with both hands, like it was heavier than a trophy. He looked at the man by the exit. "Mr. Femi Ajala," Daniel called out clearly, "please come forward." The man hesitated. Then, because hundreds of eyes were now on him, he walked forward step by step. He stopped a few meters from the stage. His suit was neat. His face was smooth, but his eyes were uncomfortable, like someone who didn't expect to be remembered. The host spoke softly. "Sir, are you connected to the scholarship?" Femi cleared his throat. "Yes." The hall gasped. The daughters held each other's hands tighter. Daniel's voice stayed calm. "Why?" Daniel asked. "Did you stop the scholarship letters from reaching my home?" Femi blinked hard. "I didn't stop anything." Said stepped forward. "Don't lie," she said. "I saw the file years ago. Your signature was on the transfer. The address was changed." Femi's face tightened. A long silence passed. Then the third daughter, sharp-minded, asked the question that cut through everything. Was it a mistake, or was it on purpose? Femi looked around the hall. He realized there was no easy escape. Not because anyone would harm him, no. This was still a clean, safe environment, but because the truth had surrounded him like a wall. He exhaled. "It was on purpose," he admitted quietly. The hall went so still that even the air conditioner hum sounded loud. Daniel's hands shook slightly, but his voice remained steady. "Why?" he asked again. "Why would anyone do that?" Femi swallowed. "Because someone asked me to." Daniel's heart sank. The eldest daughter spoke slowly. "Who?" Femi's eyes shifted. He didn't want to say the name, not in public. But the crowd waited, and the truth doesn't like to wait. Femi finally said, "A man who wanted control. A man who didn't want your family to rise without his permission." Daniel felt dizzy. Said's eyes filled with tears. "You mean he didn't want Daniel to succeed on his own?" Femi nodded slowly. He wanted Daniel to come begging. He wanted Daniel to feel stuck. The hall murmured with shock. The youngest daughter whispered, "So, someone wanted us to suffer?" Daniel turned to her quickly. "No," he said firmly. "Listen to me. Nobody gets to decide your destiny. Not me, not your mother, not any stranger. You were never born to suffer. You were born to grow." The youngest wiped her eyes and nodded. The host stepped forward carefully. "Mr. Femi," she asked, "are you saying the scholarship was real and approved?" "Yes," Femi answered. "It was approved for years. Full support." The hall erupted not with celebration, but with disbelief. Daniel's chest rose and fell. He felt a painful thought trying to enter his mind. If those letters had reached him, life might have been easier. But Daniel pushed the thought away, because he also knew something else. Easy does not always build strong people, and his daughters were strong. The eldest daughter lifted the microphone gently. I have a question, she said, looking at Femi. Her voice was steady, not rude. Do you feel sorry? Femi stared at the floor. Yes, he said. Not because I got caught, but because I can see what you became anyway. I was wrong. The second daughter spoke softly. We didn't become successful because life was kind. We became successful because our father stayed. The hall applauded. Not wild applause, respectful applause. Then Daniel raised his hand slightly, asking for silence. He turned to Femi. I will not insult you, Daniel said calmly. I will not shout, but I will ask you to do something. Femi looked up. What? Tell the whole truth, Daniel said. Not to punish you, but to close this chapter properly. Femi nodded slowly. I will, he said. The host looked relieved. We will document this with the board, she said, keeping it professional and safe. Then Daniel did something no one expected. He turned away from Femi and faced his daughters. He looked at them one by one. The eldest, strong and steady. The second, gentle but brave. The third, sharp and focused. All the way to the youngest, soft-hearted but determined. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. I wanted to protect you from bitterness, he said, but tonight I want you to learn something even bigger. The daughters leaned in. Daniel continued, sometimes people try to block your light, but if your light is real, it will still shine. That is what you proved. The hall clapped again. Then the host returned to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, she said warmly, tonight is still about celebration because despite every obstacle, these women rose. The stage lights brightened. The daughters stepped forward together and formed a line beside Daniel. The host smiled gently. Mr. Daniel Okori, she said, your daughters have one final gift. The eldest daughter turned to Daniel and held out a framed document. It was a plaque, not a flashy one. A simple one. The words on it were clear. The man who stayed, honored for sacrifice, love and courage. Daniel stared at it like he couldn't read. Then the youngest daughter hugged him tightly. Daddy, she whispered, you raised us against all odds. Daniel closed his eyes. Tears slipped down his cheeks, not shame tears, but relief tears. He hugged them back one by one, all 8 of them. The hall stood up again, and this time the applause felt different. It wasn't just for success. It was for endurance. It was for love. It was for a father who stayed when it was hard. Said, standing a little aside, watched with a shaking smile. She didn't push herself into the circle, she didn't interrupt. But the eldest daughter looked at her, then slowly she walked over. Saad's breath caught. The eldest daughter spoke softly, so only those close could hear. We're not ready to pretend nothing happened, she said. But we can learn a new way forward, step by step. Said's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. The eldest nodded. Start with honesty, she said, and consistency. Said nodded quickly. I will. And there, in a hall filled with strangers, cameras, and bright lights, something quiet happened. A family that had been broken by pain began to rebuild with truth, not perfectly, not instantly, but genuinely. Daniel looked at his daughters one last time and whispered, against all odds, you made it. The youngest smiled through tears. No, Daddy, she said, we made it. And for the first time in many years, Daniel believed it fully.